I should state very clearly that I support Canada taking a more robust and proactive approach towards holding those responsible for crimes against humanity and war crimes and acts of genocide against the Palestinian people responsible. That is a critical role for Canada to play in the world. It's one that I support, it's one that many of my colleagues support, and as I hope that you're aware, there have been very significant shifts in terms of Canada's policy towards Palestine and towards Israel in recent weeks. So for those who may feel, whether they're inside this room or outside of this room, that Canada is doing nothing, that Canada isn't changing in response to the changing facts on the ground, I beg to differ. I look forward to giving you a brief sketch of some of those changes, and I would welcome your questions at the question and answer period in a few minutes' time. The crisis in Palestine, specifically the humanitarian crisis, and indeed Israel's acts of violent illegality against the people of Gaza, is something that cannot be ignored, nor should it be. And I certainly am not here, nor am I a member of Parliament, in order to not point out the injustice and the violence that we are seeing in real time, on our screens, on the news, in the newspaper. The crisis in Palestine and the crisis in Gaza are different than those in Ukraine. They have a different history, they have a much longer runtime. It's a story that I think many people feel they already have a sense of, and so perhaps pay somewhat less attention to new developments, to new degrees of suffering as those unfold before us. I hope that we do not do that. And I am very encouraged by what has been a significant change in the foreign policy of Canada towards Palestine and by extension towards the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in recent weeks. Canada has now taken a profoundly significant step of announcing its intention to recognize a free and independent state of Palestine at the United Nations General Assembly next month, joining the large majority of states in the world who have already announced their recognition of the state of Palestine. This is an action that puts us in company with most of the rest of the world, and which Canada is now taking alongside two of our G7 allies, the UK and France, having both made similar announcements in recent months. There are many people, including some people around this hotel this evening, who might say that recognizing a state of Palestine alone isn't doing enough, and I would agree. But that is not to say that recognizing a state of Palestine is not a critical step towards a political resolution of the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and that it is not a significant shift in Canadian foreign policy, which for decades has embraced the principle of a two-state solution while declining to take the critical step of recognizing a state of Palestine. And I commend Prime Minister Carney, I commend Foreign Minister Anita Anand, and I commend my many colleagues in the Liberal caucus who have advocated internally within our party, to the Foreign Minister, to the Prime Minister, in print, in person, over a cocktail, over a coffee, over the end of a meeting that was on something entirely different, to encourage the most senior leaders in our country to take this step. It's not something that's always visible to the public when politicians persuade their colleagues internally to try to change their mind. It's a difficult thing for activists to see us doing. And so in the minds of some people, that translates into us not doing anything. And I'm here to say that isn't so. The proof is evident in the announcement that Prime Minister Carney has made. Further proof will come in New York City in September. And future proof will continue to unfold as Canada reassesses and adjusts its policy towards both Israel and Palestine in reaction to changing facts on the ground. In addition to the recognition of Palestine, Canada has announced an aid package of more than $300 million of humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza who are starving by way of purposeful Israeli policy. People whose homes have been destroyed, people whose livelihoods have been upended in every way conceivable, and people who desperately require outside assistance and support to meet their short-term needs and to rebuild their society for the future. I could say much more about Palestine, but I think I will hold that part of my remarks there, and I look forward to any comments or questions during the Q&A in a moment.